Hey folks, what's up? We're going to talk about some top triangle stuff here. I'm going to go deep into what my beliefs are on the top triangle and why I teach it the way I teach it and why I talk about it all the time. And if you're new here, I'll talk about what the top triangle is. The top triangle is this entire package right here, and it's an index point. So just like everything else, we develop all the tiny little indexes we develop with our grip and different things. That's one big giant index point. The top triangle is this triangle from the gun, back one arm, across our body, and out to the gun with the other arm. Okay, this triangle right here. Okay, so pretty simple stuff. Top triangle. It forms a triangle. That's what we're looking at. Now, the head position, the arm position, the bend of the arms, the bend of the wrists, the distance between the back of the gun and our face, what that distance is. All these dimensions and all these angles form the top triangle. And what the point of burning this into our brain and actually developing this index point is so that we can toss that gun up in front of our face 100 miles an hour over and over and over and over and over again, and it be the exact same dimensions, all these measurements. That's the goal. Every time you throw that thing up, that's the top triangle. And then the great part about this is you can be leaning over, you can be sitting down, whatever, as long as you have two hands on the gun and the gun presented in front of your face, you are golden. So let's go through and we'll look at some different people and their styles. Rob's got a little bit of a craned head and a little bit different style, decently bent elbows, but we're going to look at some different styles and different people and the way they do it. So Max Michel, much different style than Rob. I think Max gets this style a lot from shooting open pistols, where he's got a much flatter face, a much lower top triangle. His chin isn't buried in the triangle. His shoulders are very relaxed. As you can see, though, we're going to see a little bit of a theme. One theme is, in the triangle, we want our head to be in the center of the triangle looking straight out through the sights, right? That's one theme. Great. Another theme is a little bit of lat activation. So what we want is a whole lot of pressure and a whole lot of friction on that gun and locked wrist. We want bent elbows. Okay, these are just some principles to abide by. We do want as much of a flat face as we possibly can, so we're looking through the center of our eyeballs to get absolute visual acuity. And then we want pretty much no tension in the body other than that. We don't want a lot of shoulder tension, we don't want a lot of shrug action or anything like that. But if we do have a little bit of tension, I suggest throwing a little bit of lat tension in there. Flare your lats a little bit, and what that does is if you flare your lats, you literally can't shrug your shoulders. It's physically impossible. So what that does is roll your shoulders down a little bit. That in turn flattens the head out, flattens the face out. It stiffens up your body just a little bit so that you got a little bit more recoil control and just a little bit more aggressiveness behind the pistol. But it doesn't totally jack up the way your movement goes and all that. So really just a solid little thing there. Okay, Shane Coley, much different style than him. Again, we're going to see a little bit of lat flare action because you don't see shrugs. And Shane's a big, strong dude, likes to lift weights and shit, gets down in that department. So, he's shooting plastic guns a lot. So Shane's got a whole lot of an aggressive style. He's been a Glock shooter for a long time, shooting plastic guns, even in open. So he's got to do some serious ripping, right? He's got to clamp down on this gun. So, you'll see he's got a little straighter top triangle. His head's craned a little bit forward. He's got a aggressive posture. His head is out in front. Your head is one big giant balance ball attached to your body. Your head controls everything in balance. It really does. So, his head is a little bit further forward. He's clamping in. He's rotating his elbows upward. He's probably using some of the Vogel style grip action. He's clamping inward on that pistol. I would speculate that. And he is getting down. So another style, different, but very obviously very useful. Now, Bob Vogel. Now, one thing I don't like about this particular picture is Bob's standing pretty straight up, whereas he's got a little more of aggressive posture in most of his match pictures and videos. But I wanted to use this picture because it showed a good solid look at his top triangle index and how he presents the gun in front of his face. Now, you'll notice here Bob's the only guy that is almost locked out at the elbows, but he is not locked out. His elbows are bent. You would see some flexion there if they weren't. And he's a little bit of an outlier on as far as how far the distance is between him and the front of his face. But Bob does not shoot red dot pistols whatsoever. He does not shoot optics. He does not shoot open. He is an iron-sighted guy through and through, so that's going to change the way he looks at doing work. And he shoots Glocks. He's always shot Glock. He likes us to really use a lot of grip strength and wrist strength to latch onto the pistol and do serious work. Again, rolling those elbows upward to clamp on that gun. And if you watch my grip video about leverages, Bob Vogel's style is one of the styles of grip because he kind of pioneered this style where you're rotating inward, clamping against that gun, trying to rip the gun kind of in half. Okay, so watch that video if you don't know anything about the Vogel grip, but it's big. Alright, so here's an older guy, Ken Hackett, one of the pioneer guys of the newer style shooting stances and everything. Got a little bit of a different style. He's probably the only guy with a little bit of right bias, so his head is probably looking down this right arm just a little bit by the looks of it and by what I've seen in some other videos and things. But he's come from a long way of shooting Weaver and changing styles and stances and everything, and his eyesight probably isn't the greatest, shooting an iron-sighted pistol here, blah 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 blah, million reasons for it. It's not wrong. It is just one of the principles that I like to try to get people really thinking, staying in the center of that, their head right in the center, the triangle being very equal on both sides, as far as the pistol being presented right in front of their face, and right in front of their dominant eye, actually. So, for the most part, pretty simple, pretty straightforward, a little bit of a different bend in the elbows there. Head forward, again, not letting the pistol push him around. Now, here's a guy that is probably the best pistol shooter on earth at the moment. Max Michel and J.J. Racaza and Ben Steger and all these total badasses win all kinds of stuff. But anytime they go up against this dude, they have a hard time beating him. So it's Erik Rafael. The volume thing is stuck on there because I'm an idiot. And we're going to go look at his stuff. As you can see, he grips a pistol with the finger up on the trigger guard, and his top triangle and his posture behind the gun, very far forward, back of the head, in front of the belt buckle, like I like to see. This is probably the style that I've mimicked the most, and it kind of organically happened, but it just so happens that he's one of the best, and I have looked at a lot of his stuff. Not a ton of material out there on Erik Rafael because he's a foreign guy, but still, whatever. Left arm just a little bit higher than the right. Not a ton of bend to the elbow, but a little bit. And then just a very, pretty neutral, middle of the road, but just a little bit more behind the pistol, a little bit more aggressive, and you can tell that this is taken in the middle of a stage, so he's going to be really trying to get behind that gun and do work. And he is a freaking phenomenal shooter. Now we took a little bit of a different style here. Ben Steger has a much more upright style, and Ben Steger does a lot of things weird. Ben Steger reloads low, does stuff like that, like all kinds of stuff. Ben Steger just does a lot of things differently. So, it's just one of those things here. He has a little more flat-faced, upright style, but as you notice here, here's his ass, and there's his head. So he is biased forward. He has his head out. He is not going to let the gun push him around, and he has a pretty neutral, pretty normal top triangle style. Pretty normal bend to the elbows. Pretty neutral style of gripping. Doesn't cam the wrist forward very far at all. Pretty neutral on that. The only thing is he just stands a little bit further straight up, which, like I said, Ben kind of reloads low and does a lot of things differently. So here's a guy that I've really taken a lot from in shooting. My style is not 100% like his or anything, but I respect this guy as an instructor. He's an SF guy who went and did that whole thing for a bunch of years, and then realized that competition shooters and stuff had a real knack for actually running these here things, and understood that, okay, there's something to that. So he went balls deep into that whole thing and became a GM and USPSA, and realized that there's a little more to it than what they thought, and then took that back to the SF side and did all that stuff. So pretty cool. One of my favorite guys, Frank Proctor, one of the best instructors, I believe, in the country. So if you look at him, he has a much more bent style, and also this dimension, like we've talked about 100 times now, is very short on him. He likes to bring the gun nice and close to his face. Lots of reasons for that. Movement, different things. He likes it like that. And then he also talks about gripping in a little bit of a different manner that I have neglected to talk about before, but he likes to get as much hand on pistol as totally possible and even out the pressure all the way through the palm. So what he does is actually talks about, instead of rolling the elbows upward, he's rolling his elbows a little bit downward to, because you got good pressure up here on the grip. What he wants is pressure all the way through the grip, so he rolls his elbows and corks them inward a little bit to create more pressure evenly all the way down through the bottom of the grip. I use a torquing kind of method in the Vogel C-clander type style to accomplish the same thing, but that's something to look at, something to play with. And all these styles are just to look at, to play with, to understand that they're all viable. You need to figure out how your hands work, how your wrists work, how your forearms work, and how your strengths and weaknesses work with these styles. Try to mimic them and see which one's going to yield the best results for you. So, alright, Mike C-clander, one of my favorite guys also. Big time grip guy. My grip video has several of these guys' styles mentioned in it. The grip video about leverages and stuff. I really think you should look at that if you don't know what I'm talking about on some of this stuff. So, C-clander, this is a shitty picture, but pretty normal style, right? Nothing too crazy to talk about. As you can see, aggressive camp behind the gun. He is behind the gun, right? And why is it that these big strong guys are getting freaking behind that gun? Okay? We want to freaking dominate over this thing. We do not allow this gun to push us around. No matter how big and strong we are, we don't stand there with the Instagram lean, because we ain't trying to be Instagram operators. We're actually trying to, JJ Rafael, get behind that freaking gun and run the shit out of it. Do not let yourself stand up, and do not ever let yourself get pushed around by a pistol. I don't care if you're shooting a 10mm or a 44 mag or whatever the hell it is, it should never be pushing you backwards. Okay? If you watch these Instagram operators that are standing straight up and down, you watch them. They shoot a bill drill, you draw a line right here, they shoot a bill drill, and now the line's right there. Okay? They're letting the gun push them around, and they're too damn dumb to realize it. So, anyway, JJ Rafael, a little bit of a different style here. We'll go to a more new picture of him. Pretty normal style, pretty middle of the road here. But again, we're going to see engagement of that lat, pulling the shoulders down, and that little bit of tension in this one area can kind of stiffen up and tensen up the entire package here, and then the other half of you can be really loose, and movement and all those things can be really loose and fluid and fast with just a little bit of tension right here. So flare the lats a little bit, roll the shoulders down, flat face, nice gun position, whatever, and figure out your top triangle in order to get that grip. You can see that he is behind this pistol and he is doing work with it, right? Now, we don't want to be a big ball of tension and tactical turtling and shit, because that's going to lead to a big sloppy mess and stiffness and rigidity, same way as I equate to boxing all the time or striking. If you're stiff and rigid and you're standing there waiting on a punch or waiting to throw a punch, you are going to get hit in the face and you are going to be slow. Okay? When you're fluid and loose, you can fire off with a lot more strength, with a lot more fluidity, and a lot more quickness, snap and reflex and reaction. So as we look at Wonsan Kim, here's a little look at the front of him, and he's getting down, both eyes just right behind that pistol, nice and centered up head. And then you see this position. Look at how far Wonsan's getting behind that gun. He is really getting behind that thing and doing some work with it. So not afraid to lean over and get behind the thing and let her rip. Okay, pretty normal as far as the bend in the elbow and the hands and everything. Wonsan actually has a pretty low style of gripping the pistol, and he uses that kind of isometric push-pull style that I talked about in that grip video. But again, a million ways to do it, a million ways to skin a cat. You look at the back of his head, I mean, hell, he's way out here in front of his body, so he's getting behind that thing. Not a huge guy or anything, but I don't think he's a tiny guy either. And he's doing the thing, right? So I think that's the end of her. All right. So yeah, just to look at a whole bunch of different ones and how we're doing it. Oh, one more. This is Christian Sailor, some young ass kid that seems to be crushing everybody's ass in open, and just he is a smaller dude, and just a pretty simple concept here. Open pistols, you got the dot a little bit higher over the gun, although this is a pretty low setup, you know, pretty cool setup here, really minimalist. That's kind of what I like, is a regular old dot, not one of the big ass ones, and a low setup if I can. But as you see, it allows you to have your top triangle a little lower, and the gun, the line of sight is clear up here, and you can have the gun a little lower, in which I believe that actually helps people in the long run. Alright, ladies, so this is it. This is the top triangle index. We need to really be paying attention to this when we toss that gun up in front of our face. All these angles are so important. All these dimensions, how far the gun is from your face, all that stuff is so important. Just really get it dialed in. Start to feel what it feels like in your wrist and your forearm muscles when you throw that gun up. What your shoulders feel like, what your lats feel like. Where are your arms, and where is your ass, where is your head? Like, start feeling all this stuff, and as soon as you get it down, you'll be able to do wild shit. So here I'm doing some draws to 2 shots in the head, and these are all around 9/10, 0.89, stuff like that, and 20 split. So I'm about 110 for 2 shots in the head. And you'll see how I throw the gun up exactly the same way each and every time, right in front of my dominant eye, and that's why I can get this level of performance. So it's not that hard, you just got to get your index points right and get it.